The Antichrist in the Last Days. The concept of the Antichrist in the last days is a topic deeply rooted in Christian eschatology and theological discussions. Various interpretations exist depending on one's religious or theological perspective. Below is an exploration of key aspects of this concept. Exploration of key aspects. Biblical references. 1. New Testament mentions. The term Antichrist is explicitly mentioned in the Epistles of John. 1 John chapter 2 verse 18. Dear children, this is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many antichrists have come. 1 John chapter 4 verse 3. Every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming and even now is already in the world. These passages suggest both a future individual and a present spiritual opposition to Christ. Exploration of key aspects. 2. The beast in Revelation. Revelation chapter 13 describes a beast rising from the sea with great authority, often associated with the Antichrist in apocalyptic literature. The mark of the beast, 666, is tied to this figure, symbolizing allegiance to evil powers. 3. Pauline references. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 3 to 4. Paul refers to the man of lawlessness, who will exalt himself above God, a figure often linked to the Antichrist. Exploration of key aspects. Characteristics of the Antichrist. Deceptive. The Antichrist is described as a deceiver who will lead many away from the truth. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 9 to 10. Opposer of God. He opposes Christ and seeks to usurp divine authority. Political and spiritual leader. Often depicted as wielding significant influence over nations and religions. Performer of signs and wonders. Will use miracles to deceive people. Exploration of key aspects. Role in the last days. 1. Global deception. The Antichrist is believed to rise to power during a time of global crisis, offering solutions and peace but ultimately leading humanity astray. 2. Tribulation. Many Christians believe the Antichrist will play a central role in the Great Tribulation, a period of suffering and persecution before Christ's return. 3. Opposition to Christ's return. The Antichrist will gather forces to oppose the second coming of Jesus, culminating in the Battle of Armageddon. Revelation chapter 16 verse 16. Exploration of key aspects. Theological interpretations. 1. Futurist. The Antichrist is a future individual who will emerge in the end times. 2. Preterist. The Antichrist may symbolize figures from history, such as Roman emperors like Nero. 3. Symbolic. Some view the Antichrist not as a person but as a representation of evil systems or ideologies opposing Christ. Exploration of key aspects. Signs of the Antichrist. False peace agreements. Daniel chapter 9 verse 27. Widespread apostasy or falling away from faith. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. Emergence of a global, unified system of governance and religion. Defeated by Christ. According to Christian belief, the Antichrist will ultimately be destroyed by the power of Christ at his second coming. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 8. Revelation chapter 19 verse 20. Exploration of key aspects. This topic is vast, with many interpretations across denominations and traditions. Would you like to explore this further in a specific context, such as theological views, historical figures tied to the Antichrist, or its portrayal in art and culture? Historical figures tied to the Antichrist concept. Throughout history, several figures have been labeled or associated with the concept of the Antichrist. These associations often reflect political, religious, or social tensions of the time rather than factual evidence. Below is a list of historical figures who have been tied to the Antichrist by various groups or individuals. Historical figures associated with the concept of the Antichrist. Religious leaders. Popes. During the Protestant Reformation, reformers like Martin Luther and John Calvin identified the Pope, or the papacy in general, as the Antichrist. This claim was rooted in their critique of the Catholic Church's power and perceived corruption. Muhammad. Some medieval Christian writers associated the Prophet of Islam with the Antichrist due to the perceived theological conflict between Christianity and Islam. Historical figures associated with the concept of the Antichrist. Political leaders. 1. Nero. The Roman Emperor Nero was one of the earliest figures labeled as an Antichrist due to his persecution of Christians. Some interpretations of the number of the beast, 666, in Revelation align with Nero's name in Gematria. 2. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was seen as an Antichrist figure by some in the 19th century due to his military conquests and perceived threat to Christian monarchies. Historical figures associated with the concept of the Antichrist. Political leaders. 3. Adolf Hitler. During and after World War II, Hitler was widely labeled as an Antichrist figure because of his atrocities, including the Holocaust, and his global ambitions. 4. Joseph Stalin. Stalin's atheistic policies and the mass repression under his rule led some to view him as a manifestation of the Antichrist. Historical figures associated with the concept of the Antichrist. Philosophers and thinkers. 1. Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's philosophy, particularly his declaration that God is dead, was controversial in Christian circles. Some considered his writings Antichrist-like, especially given his critique of Christianity. Historical figures associated with the concept of the Antichrist. Others. 1. Charlemagne. Despite being a Christian emperor, some groups associated him with the Antichrist, particularly those who viewed his consolidation of power as oppressive. 2. Mikhail Gorbachev. In the 1980s, conspiracy theories labeled Gorbachev as the Antichrist, partly because of the birthmark on his forehead, which some interpreted as the mark of the beast. Context. The label, Antichrist, has historically been applied as a polemic tool against individuals or institutions seen as threatening dominant religious or political ideologies. It often reflects fear of change, power struggles, or theological disagreements. Historical figures in the 21st century tied to the Antichrist concept. The notion of the Antichrist is a theological and symbolic figure that has been interpreted differently across history, primarily within Christian eschatology. Claims about individuals being associated with the Antichrist often arise from sociopolitical, cultural, or religious controversies rather than verified evidence. Here are examples of figures controversially labeled or discussed in this context in the 21st century. Historical figures, 21st century, associated with the concept of the Antichrist. 1. Political leaders. Adolf Hitler, 20th century influence. While not from the 21st century, Hitler's legacy has influenced the modern application of the Antichrist label, shaping how people view authoritarian leaders. George W. Bush. Some conspiracy theories tied him to the Antichrist due to his role in wars in the Middle East, particularly Iraq. Historical figures, 21st century, associated with the concept of the Antichrist. 1. Political leaders. Barack Obama. His rise to power and global popularity sparked speculative theories labeling him as an Antichrist figure by certain groups. Vladimir Putin. His actions, particularly in relation to Ukraine and broader global influence, have prompted similar claims. Historical figures, 21st century, associated with the concept of the Antichrist. 2. Pop culture and celebrity. Musicians. Artists like Marilyn Manson or Kanye West have faced accusations of promoting anti-Christian themes or behaviors, earning them sensationalized associations with Antichrist imagery. Elon Musk. As an influential figure in AI and technology, Musk has been speculated about in conspiracy contexts discussing transhumanism and its potential to oppose traditional religious views. Historical figures, 21st century, associated with the concept of the Antichrist. 3. Religious figures. Pope Francis. Some traditionalist Catholic factions have criticized Pope Francis, alleging his reforms signify a deviation from Orthodox teachings and linking him to apocalyptic prophecies. Sun Myung Moon. The founder of the Unification Church has been both celebrated and accused of claiming roles often considered messianic or opposing Christian orthodoxy. Historical figures, 21st century, associated with the concept of the Antichrist. 6. Encouragement for believers. Despite the warnings, believers are encouraged to stand firm. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 15. So then, brothers and sisters, stand firm and hold fast to the teachings we passed on to you. Matthew chapter 24 verse 13, "But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved." Historical figures, 21st century, associated with the concept of the Antichrist. 4. Tech moguls. Bill Gates. Conspiracy theories, especially surrounding vaccinations and global health programs, have accused Gates of sinister motives aligning with end-times narratives. Mark Zuckerberg. Due to his control over social media platforms and perceived influence over global communication, some theorists have implicated him in such discussions. 5. Global financial leaders. Rothschilds and other banking dynasties. Conspiracy theories surrounding global wealth often frame these families as part of a larger plan tied to end-times prophecies. Conclusion. Theological and symbolic interpretations. It's important to recognize that these allegations are typically unfounded and rooted in fear, religious extremism, or conspiracy theories. Discussions about the Antichrist in modern times often reveal more about societal anxieties than about the individuals themselves. Subscribe, share, like, hit that notification bell for more information. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and share it with your Bible study friends and associates. Don't forget to subscribe, like, hit that notification bell for more information on Jesus and the Bible every day, week, month, and year. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the current information. Thank you for watching.